Hello, I hope that everybody is fine in their homes. And I would like to welcome you all to the English lesson for grade 8. The topic for today's lesson is Dane. It's a poem written by Rudyard Kippling. And this is the poem where Kippling is talking about the time between the years 980 and 1016 when England was under attack by the Danes. Before the Danes finally overcame the English, they had demanded money from the English king to stop them attacking. The king had paid the money, but the Danes returned several times demanding money until finally the two sides met in battle. The money which was given to the Danes to stop their invasion was called Danegeld, which means gold for the Danes. Although Kippling is writing about this particular event in the past, he is also making observations about money which are relevant to every age, including today. So we can now start reading the poem. The first stanza says, there is always a temptation to an armed and agile nation to call upon a neighbor and to say, we invaded you last night, we are quite prepared to fight, unless you pay us cash to go away. So in this stanza, the poet is telling us that the Danes used to attack England, and they used to, it was a temptation for them because they were armed and they were agile nation. Agile over here, the word agile means shrewd and clever. So this is always a temptation. This is always something which these shrewd and clever nations which have arms, which have weapons with them, they have this temptation, or they have this inclination, or you can say they are intended to call upon a neighbor, to call upon a neighboring country in this case, and to tell them and to warn them in a threatening way that to warn them that they had invaded them last night, means they were there within their borders and they were quite prepared, not if within the borders, but they were there along with the borders, or near or close the border, and they were all prepared to fight. It means their preparation was complete, and they were ready to fight unless and until they were paid cash to go away. Means they were asking for the money, for the protection money. If the king, in this case, which is the English king, if he wants to protect his country, if he wants not to be invaded by the Danes, he must pay them the money so they retreat from their borders. Coming to the second stanza, and this is called asking for Danegeld. And the people who ask it explain that you have only to pay the Danegeld, and then you'll get rid of the Dane. Alright, now in the third line, the contraction em with an apostrophe means them. It's given in your glossary as well over here. M is the abbreviation for them. So the poet says all you have to do is, the people, the Danes who were asking for the Danegeld, and the people who asked, they explain it this way, that they say that if you will pay them the money, they would just go away and you will get rid of the Dane. You will get rid of the Dane. Over here is the symbol of, the word has been used as a symbolism, right? So it's a symbol of the blackmailer. It could be an attacker. It could be someone who is blackmailing you. It could be a country. It could be an individual who is blackmailing another person. Now coming to the third stanza, it says, it is always a temptation for a rich and lazy nation to puff and look important to say. And then the poet says that any nation which is rich and which is lazy enough to fight the enemies, it is a temptation for them. It is an easy way out for them, and easy way out for them, and then they could puff about it. Puff over here means to puff and look important. Puff means to to advertise yourself as with some false praise, to advertise yourself with some false praise, to look haughty and proud, right? And to sound proud and haughty, and to look important as well. When you reply these Danes with these words, though we know we should defeat you, we have not the time to meet you. We'll therefore pay you cash to go away. So this is a reply, seemingly from the English king, which has a lot of money, and they didn't want to fight those Danes. They didn't want to get into the trouble of fighting. So they just, and then he wanted to sound haughty, and he wanted to sound arrogant as well, and look important, to tell the enemy that they had enough money to pay the gold, or to pay the protection money to the attackers. He says that we know that the right thing would be to defeat you, to meet you people in the battlefield, and there you should be defeated. One should not be blackmailed by the enemies. But they say that we are too busy, to fight with you. We don't have time to meet you, means we don't have time to meet you over here, means that we don't have time to fight you with you people, and will therefore pay you the cash, so you people would leave the borders and retreat from there. Now let's move to stanza 4, which says, and this is called paying the Dane geld, but we have proved it again and again, that if once you have paid him the Dane geld, you never get rid of the Dane. Over here the poet is telling us that although we have paid a lot of amount to the Dane, and we have done it over and over, but this policy has not proved fruitful, and this policy did not help us, because that if once we have paid the Dane geld, you never get rid of the Dane. So these last two lines of the stanza are very important. These are telling us that what is going wrong. The thing which is wrong over here is that if once you paid the blackmailer the amount they want, then they get used to it, and they ask for it over and over, and you would never get rid of the Dane. So again, the Dane over here is the symbol. It's a symbol for anybody who is blackmailing or threatening anyone. So if once you pay them in shape of money, in form of money, or in any other form, if you fulfill their demand, basically that's what the poet is trying to say. Whether they make it they ask you for the cash, or whether they ask you for anything else, once you fulfill that demand, then be sure that you are never going to get rid of the Dane or the blackmailer. Now coming to stanza 5, I guess, it is wrong to put temptation in the path of any nation, for fear they should scum and go astray. Okay, scum means, as we can see in the glossary given, surrender. Then the poet says that it is wrong. It's a wrong practice to tempt any nation, or to tempt anyone, or to give this temptation to any nation or any individual, because people could fall for the temptation, and it's a fear, that most probably they would surrender, they would give in, they would agree to pay the protection money, or to pay the Dane geld, or to fulfill the demand, whatever the demand is, and go astray, and go on the wrong path. Astray means when you are not on your path. So when you are requested to pay up or be molested, you will find it better policy to say molested means ill-treated or harmed. So the poet is making a suggestion over here. He says that whenever you are requested to pay, or whenever you are blackmailed, or being molested, being ill-treated, being harmed by someone, the better policy is, or the better solution is, or the policy, the word policy over here, poet has used for the governments. So the better policy for the governments or any individual would be to say, we never pay any one Dane Geld. The better solution to this would be that you need to refuse straightforward to the blackmailer and tell that we never pay this Dane Geld to anyone. We never pay the protection money, no matter how trifling the cost. Trifling means unimportant, insignificant, very small, very small. So it means no matter how small is the cost, how small amount they are asking for, but you never ever pay it. Even if it's a small demand, even it's a trifle demand, still if it's something very trivial, but you never fulfill the demand of the blackmailer. For the end of that game is oppression and shame, and the nation that pays it is lost. So finally the poet draws a conclusion over here, and he says that end of this game, the game of asking for Dane Geld, the game of blackmailing, the end of this game is only shame and oppression. Oppression means tyranny or subjugation. So when you have to face a treatment which is not fair, which is not just, and you are suppressed, you are enslaved by somebody. So the result of this game is it results in slavery, maybe the physical slavery or maybe the mental slavery, whatever it could be in any form, and the nation that pays it is lost. So that nation who pays the Dane Geld, they are lost, means they might lose their identity, they might lose their territory as well, or they might lose their power of making decision, they might lose their freedom. So the nation who pays the Dane Geld, they are basically lost. As this is the conclusion or the theme of the poem drawn by the poet. Now if we move to the question and answers of this poem. The question number 1 asks you, explain what is meant by asking for Dane Geld. And you're going to find answer from the first 4 lines, right? The first 4 lines, you're going to look for the answer, and you're going to explain what is the meaning of the phrase asking for the Dane Geld, which says that so the answer to this question number 1 is in the first 4 lines, which clearly tells us that asking for Dane Geld means that if you are a powerful nation, you can attack your neighbors, you can attack your enemies, and just threaten them that if they won't pay you, you would attack them, or if they want you to stop from attacking you, they just have to pay you the money. That's what it means, or basically blackmailing your enemies or your neighbors if you are a powerful nation, right? So basically that's what it means by asking for the for Dane Geld. Question number 2. What seems to be the advantages to a nation in paying the Dane Geld? So over here in question number 2, the signpost is what, right? Whereas in question number 1 it was explained. So you really have to explain the term. In question number 1 you can explain it with reference to the country or with reference to some individual as well. For question number 2, our signpost is what. So we would focus on this keyword, and you have to underline it while writing your questions in the notebook. So what seems to be the advantages to a nation in paying the Dane Geld? The answer lies in from line 5 till line 12, which says, they clearly states the advantage for paying the Dane Geld is that they don't have to fight the enemy.